Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm Justin D. Jenkins, managing editor of The Quintessential Gentleman, and I'm here today with Jeff Friday, CEO of Abff Ventures and the founder of the American Black Film Festival. Jeff, how are you?
I'm well. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm so excited to talk to you. I've been admiring your work for the last, 25 years that, you're celebrating this year. So now gearing up to celebrate the 25th anniversary of ABFF, how excited are you to be in this moment right now?
That's a good question. It's very exciting, and the biggest source of pleasure for us is the fact that we had the foresight and the vision and the commitment to stand with Black creators for the last 25 years. And I was telling someone earlier that, when we first started, people made fun of this. They asked, there was a lot of cynicism out there. Why are you doing a Black Film Festival? Who cares about a Black Film Fest? We already have other festivals around the world. Why do we need another one? And I was clear that, there are a lot of inequities in this business. Hollywood is not a fair place to operate. It's just not.
Yeah.
And Hollywood has been operating in the status quo for hundreds of years, primarily with Black and brown people on the outside of the decision-making pool, right? So we're in front of the camera more than we're making decisions about what gets financed and what gets distributed. So my goal was really simple 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Create a place where Black people could show how talented they are in front of Black people, give them that big embrace, let them know that they can be successful, and then send them out into the universe to go out and make something happen. And I always believe that the only thing standing between us and success is opportunity and access. So ABFF was about, or is about, opportunity and access as much as it's about what's on the screen. Because that, at the end of the day, what's on the screen only matters if there's opportunity and access.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I know it's a long-winded answer, but very, very proud of what we've accomplished in the last 25 years.
No, definitely love it, especially when you talk about the access and resources, which is, important throughout all different industries, especially filmmaking. Now, this year, the festival is going completely virtual. Was this a hard decision to make?
One of the toughest decisions I've had to make in business, because we've been waiting for 2 decades to celebrate this live. Our event is in Miami every year, as you well know.
Yeah.
And so we had plans, we had venues booked, and we had some big films premiering. So yeah, it's very difficult, but you've got to, when you say you're about community, you got to live it, right? And you can't say your festival is all about the well-being of our community and then create a situation where health and safety can be compromised.
Yeah.
So this was strictly a health and safety call, right? Did we have to go to Miami this year? Could it wait until some more time when it's just more practical and more safe? So the answer is yes. So fortunately, we do have a virtual platform. So last year, when COVID first hit, we built this streaming platform called ABFF Play.
Right.
So in addition to our live event, we may be one of the only festivals that has a streaming service too. So it was really easy for us to pivot because we're pivoting to our own platform, which is fantastic, right? But still very excited about next year. Like I'm already counting down the days to ABFF 2020. Next June, we're going back to, we can't announce the dates yet, but we're going back to Miami next June. It's the 26th anniversary, but we're going to also make up for all that we missed live this year, the 25th anniversary.
Right, I love that. It's definitely special. I was going to actually ask you about ABFF Play. Was that idea born slowly from COVID, or was that just a different type of creative idea to kind of, I guess, excel and do the things that you were doing?
Good question. So we had talked about, they say necessity is the mother of invention, right?
Right.
And so we had talked about getting into the online world, having a technology or digital play, no pun intended, for our content. And what forced us to do it now, so we've been talking about it for 5 years, we'll get to it next year. COVID forced us to have to do it now. So it was something that we conceptualized, we've been strategizing about, but we hadn't made the financial commitment to do it just because it wasn't a priority, right? And then COVID hits, and now it's like, okay, the world has officially changed, and you got to change with it or be stuck in what the old way. I don't think we'll ever go back to a place where people are doing live events only. I think there'll always be live events won't go away because live events have an appeal of audience. People like to celebrate art together, right? We like to be in a movie theater and hear the screams and the clap. That's a part of the experience, right? Concerts kind of hard. I don't know if you've ever done this, but have you ever sat in a concert by yourself? Completely different experience to sit in a room with somebody playing on the stage with no crowd around. So live events aren't going away, but we also know that virtual, the space for having events that you can enjoy from your home or in your car, your mobile device, those have a place now too, and there's a market for that as well. So our game plan is we're going to do both. We're going to have a live event profile, we're going to have a virtual event. In some cases, they'll be hybrid. They'll be both. Because we also have some other events planned next year too that I'll tell you about.
All right, can't wait for that. Now here we are 25 years later. When was the moment 25 years ago where when you made a decision and said, I need to create a festival to promote Black storytelling?
So I went to Sundance 25 years ago.
Okay.
To see Love Jones.
Okay.
And a couple of things happened. Love Jones did very well at Sundance, in spite of the fact that very few Black people were there. So I realized two things. I realized that mainstream, this is not about Sundance, this is about mainstream everything. Mainstream stuff doesn't always work hard enough to invite people of color. Kind of that private party thing I talked about, right? Mainstream stuff, mainstream award shows, mainstream everything, in my opinion, don't really work hard enough to be inclusive because it's mainstream, right? So I saw this mainstream festival kind of operating at the way it operates, right? And I was wondering, are there Black filmmakers out there that don't know about these mainstream festivals? Are the mainstream festivals trying hard enough to include Black? So instead of sitting and having, this having this mental exercise about things I don't control, I decided to do my own. So I just created one. Okay, so the mainstream festivals don't really have a lot of Black and brown stuff, but the Black and brown stuff plays really well at the mainstream fest. They just don't really have a lot of it. Right. So that tells you that good stories are universal because everybody loves Love Jones. If you don't love Love Jones, something's wrong with you. I don't care what color, how old you are. I've not met one person that didn't say, wow, that was a great movie. Not one. Right. So good content plays regardless of what the color of the creed is in religion. Still has nothing to do with that. Good things play. And mainstream festivals weren't doing enough to invite people of color to showcase their work and support them. So we just created our own. Yeah. We simply did. So that was the reason we did it. I've gone around to other festivals. I didn't see a lot of Black and brown. So I said, I'll create my own Black and brown. And 25 years later,
here we are. Awesome. Yeah. Now, what was like one of your main obstacles to kind of getting this off the ground?
People not thinking it was necessary. Early on, sponsors were tough to get. Like our first sponsor was HBO, and to their credit, they got it. And so we're rolling with HBO. They got it way before everybody else got it. Right. So sponsorship interest was tough. Media interest was tough. There was no quintessential gentleman blog or outlet or brand. It was either big traditional advertisers, print ad. Remember something called print ads?
Yeah, print ads.
It was the print business, right? It was they were all kind of controlled by these big publishing companies. Yeah. That didn't have any particular interest in this little Black film fest. So it was really hard for us to get attention for what we were doing. It was tough for us to get sponsors. HBO kind of set the stage for, then they go, it's good enough for HBO. Now I'll take a look at it. So they kind of helped us evolve from that. The one thing that's never been tough is talent. From the very first call I made, and my first calls were like Hallie, Robert Townsend, John Singleton, Spike, Bill Duke, Debbie Allen, those are like the people who are there. And then Regina King shows up, and Nia. And so what hasn't been difficult is getting talent to support. We have always had the Black talent creative community. Everybody's, and everybody comes. If they're not working, they're there. Right. And so that's the one consistent. And so we've just been blessed, man. Like everybody really got it early on. Everybody who needed to get it, got it. Yeah. And we had enough resources to wait until the cycle of diversity kind of shifted. Because at some point, the world changed and folks, this is important. It is important to celebrate Black people.
Yeah.
and Black voices and Black culture. Now we're in a different world. Everybody's, Black is the new green now. And so now things could not be better than they are now. But we had a 20-year run where they weren't quite like they are today.
That's interesting. And in those moments of like despair, uncertainty, what kind of kept you going and pushing you forward?
Just faith in that we were doing the right thing, and people who trusted me on the team. Like we have a lot of people, Chelsea included, who you just met, who are working on this, who've been working on this more than 20 years. We have there's one guy on our team who's done every year. He's done every festival that I've done. He's one of the first people to call. And then we have like 10 or so people that have worked for us 20 years.
Yeah.
So when people trust you and they trust your leadership, basically you can't fail anybody. So what keeps me going is this burning desire to never let anybody down. So I don't want to let the people down who work for the festival, who put their time and energy into making it great, right? Can't let those folks down. I can't let young filmmakers down, because if ABFF goes away, I'm not quite sure what takes its place.
Yeah.
Sponsors trust you. If you look at our website, you look at all the brands on our website, go scroll down to the bottom and look at those. So you see logos and I see obligations. So you can't let people down. If people trust you, when HBO or Amazon puts their logo on our website, that says, Jeff and team, we're rolling with you. We trust you. We're a multi-billion-dollar company. We trust you.
Yeah.
Right? You can't let folks down. So my obsession with delivering to people is really what drove. I never wanted to fail this community and the people who supported me. And unless it's out of my power, I won't. That's really the secret for me. That's something I've never said out loud, to be very honest, Justin. Like, I don't want to let everybody down ever.
Right.
That's what drives.
You definitely not let anyone down for these past 25 years. I'm interested to get your take, because you created something where you decided to celebrate ourselves. And we see with Hollywood, Golden Globes, or recently, I believe the Emmys, like, no one of color won in any of the acting categories, really. When you see that, we constantly do you feel like we want that validation and we're not celebrating ourselves? Or what is your thought process when that comes up? Because you are a man who said, I'm just going to do it and we're going to celebrate what we know that we have, the talent we have.
I personally think, and I've said this before, that self-validation is a superpower. If you could find a way to validate yourself, you're separating yourself from most people.
Yeah.
Most people need validation from others to feel good about what they do.
Yeah.
Those of us who don't have an advantage over those who do. Right. My general point about that is, I think that people of color should not rely on those mainstream trophies for validation. That's my general point.
Yeah.
So when I hear it, because it comes and goes, and when it ebbs and flows. If 20 years ago nobody got nominated, the next year everybody's Black gets nominated. It's like an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
And if you ground yourself in, I do good work, my family loves me, my community respects my work, then whether I got an Emmy or Oscar, it starts to matter a little bit less. Now the catch is, Emmys and Oscars relate to money. Mm-hmm. So an actor with an Emmy gets paid more than an actor without an Emmy. So I understand it from a financial and economic standpoint, right? If the Academy Award winning actor gets more money than an actor that got an ABFF award, right? Mm-hmm. I got that. But you just got to know where that sits in the cut. Like you have to balance that with self-validation. I always say, hey, they shouldn't give so much power to the Emmy. Overall, I think we give too much power to it, and we go on that ride, and I just hate to see it personally. Yeah. But also, I'm not critical of it. I mean, if that's the most important thing to you, then I'm not judging. Yeah. If getting an Oscar is the most important thing to you, who the hell am I to tell you that it shouldn't be, right? I just think that there's another perspective that might make you feel better about not winning one. It's called love of your own community. And there are a lot of stars in our community that aren't stars in the mainstream. Yeah. I don't know if, like take Morris Chestnut, who's my brother, and Lorenz Tate. Icon. Super talented actors, icons, good men, everything above. I don't know if their star power, if they're big, I don't know how big their stardom is in the mainstream world. Right. But there's not a Black person that you could, particularly women, that you could mention Mars or Lorenz
Right.
and they don't smile, they don't light up
Yeah.
because they're iconic in our community.
Yeah.
So kind of different worlds, and though some of us can kind of operate in both and be big in both, but I just think that, love of your community should be very more important to you than chasing trophies in a
Right.
world.
That makes so much sense. Now, what are some of your fondest memories throughout all of these years with ABFF?
Um, Lots of memories, man. The first year was great. 90 people showed up.
Okay.
I thought thousands were going to come, and only 90 came. I think 91 people came. And I remember the good news about it being so small is that everybody got close, right? And the 90 people, those celebrities I mentioned were included in the 90.
Yeah.
So it's like 15 celebrities and 75 people from around the country who I did not know. And it was just a magical thing, man. At the end of that week, folks were crying because they didn't want to go home. That was probably the most powerful moment for me, the end of the first year when I realized that this was a really good idea and Black people needed self-validate. That was my self-validation moment where I saw how us loving each other and supporting each other, how it affected us emotionally. The next year, Will Packer, I met Will Packer and seeing him just do what he's done since then. He was like a kid out of FAMU, and that's been great for me. And I remember meeting Kerry Washington for the first time as a young actor, her first feature. So we've had Taraji. I've been able to reflect back on meeting people, when they were kind of like, I remember Kevin Hart, Amari Hart, which is like my little brother now, and he won our Best Actor award like 12. We have in the independent films, we'll have like Best Director, Best Actor. He won, I forgot what the film was, but he won Best Actor like 13 years ago. So just seeing Anthony Anderson, Issa Rae, just connecting with people at their first project and then seeing them,
Blossom.
be successful. And they all have one thing in common. They're very talented. They're all very driven. None of those people I mentioned are alike. They're very talented. They're very driven. And that's why it's not because of ABFF, but we gave them a place to show their work before some of the other places did. And that's really our legacy.
I love that. And I know you reflect back that and you probably just become, so happy. Now your company, Jeff Friday Media, you inked a deal with Sony Pictures. Explain what that deal is and how that separates you from other festivals.
Yeah. So, not really separate, but now we have a production division. So I mentioned all the people like Ryan Coogler came through, 2011 with his first short film. He won an award, but he had aspirations to make movies. And we were not set up as a production company then. So we couldn't help him get his film produced, So now we just have a production entity that when we find someone who has a great script, we're going to go make and finance and produce their movie. We have a feature deal with Sony for feature films. We have an unscripted deal that we're about to announce next week with a major company. So Chelsea will give you the heads up on that. That's going out. So we have a big unscripted deal. Awesome. And we have a scripted TV deal with Endeavor Content. So we have 3 pod deals, one for feature films with Sony, one unscripted that will be announced very soon, and one for scripted TV with Endeavor Content. So long story short is we're in the showcase Black talent business, and now we're also in the produce Black content business. And those things obviously align with each other, right?
Right.
You produce with the people you meet. And our priority is to produce with people who are fairly unknown and to shepherd them into the universe, into the ecosystem of Hollywood.
That is amazing. It was like a natural next step for your career and what you wanted to do.
Absolutely, that's exactly what it was. And I only wish that I've gotten to it a few years ahead. And we could have done it, but again, we're a small company. We like to get into things when our feet can be solid on the ground, and I never felt that we could really deliver on doing that until recently. So everything happens at a time and a place when it's supposed to happen, which I truly believe.
There you go. Now you've been on the forefront of how we tell our stories and helping us tell our stories. Have you seen progress in Hollywood these last 25 years? And what does Hollywood need to do to kind of, accelerate that progress if you do feel like we've made progress?
I think there's a lot of progress. I don't know what Hollywood needs to do.
Yeah.
But you've seen it. There's a lot more you could go to a channel guide and see Black content, TV shows and films, particularly the TV. I think the streaming universe has changed the world the most, because the Netflix and Amazon Primes and HBO Maxes and Peacocks have basically created more places for content. Before, if it didn't play network TV, right? Yeah. It was a no. Now there's numerous channels and platforms. So I think that's the primary driver of what you're seeing now. There's so many buyers and such a need for diverse content, and now niche content has a place to live, right? Yeah. What they need to do more, I think the focus now should be shifted on the C-suites, on getting more people of color in positions to greenlight films, because that really hasn't changed. Yeah. That hasn't changed. That's changed very little. How many people of color are making the final calls about what we actually see on these services? Not many. Yeah. You can go across the companies. It's not hard to do. You could just look at what the CEOs look like across all the major companies that you support. And I don't think there are any CEOs that look like you and me. Right. There might be one, but you get the point. Right, exactly. Now, what are you looking forward to this year at the festival, and what can audience expect? So this year, happiest that we are able to make it free. So I don't know if you highlighted that point. I think I'd like you to highlight that point, that the festival runs from November 3rd to the 28th. So we have it up for almost a month, and it's free. All you got to do is go to ABFF Play and register. On our platform right now, we have subscribers from, and then not paid, free subscribers from 90 countries around the world. So I'm doing an interview next week with a brother from Ghana. So now what I'm excited about is ABFF is a global brand. We're putting up 100 movies, 25 panels, and everybody around the world can watch and enjoy this Black culture for free. That's exciting. Yeah, that is exciting. And also, my brother Will Packer he's our jury president this year, so he's back in supporting that role, and so he'll help us determine which films win the awards for best feature and best doc and best web series and those sorts of things. So just a lot of things. We didn't get to Miami, but a lot of other amazing things have come together this year, including some things that you'll hear about in the coming days. I love that. I cannot wait to watch these movies. I'll let you go. My last question. So what does the next 25 years look like for ABFF, and what does it look like for Jeff Friday? Continued growth, continuing to challenge ourselves to be better, to be innovative, to stay in front of the curve, not chase it. Mm-hmm. And me, I like to just kind of steer that. Whether I'm at the helm of it or not, it's another question, but I just want to steer it in the right direction. That's basically it, man. Yeah. Movies, television shows, promoting Black culture, promoting Black entrepreneurship, promoting the fact that Black people can successfully work together, that we can be productive as a group. Yeah. And that we can do other things other than sports and make rap music and all that kind of, right. That's where my head is. I'm trying to show the world that we can do other things, that we can be successful in business and other enterprises, and that the world knows that we're the best athletes. I want the world to know that we're the best at some other stuff too. So that's where we are. I love that.